the Honorable Nzubuga Simeo Mwanga, MP, and the Honorable Patrick Nzamba Oshabe, MP. The delegation is accompanied by the following officers: Mr. Paul Gamusi Wabwire, Deputy Clerk, Parliamentary Affairs; Ms. Sharon Atuhaile Mugabe, Deputy Editor of Hansard; Mr. Enamu Jonathan, Principal Research Officer; Mrs. Yedia Beatrice Gladys, Principal Administrative Officer; and Mrs. Jacqueline Mpitsi Oidu, Clerk Assistant Delegation Secretary. Honorable members, the delegation is in the country on a visit to our parliament, specifically to share experiences on the CPA Kenya branch rules, branch operations, induction of new members of parliament on CPA matters, on CPA activities, and the overall strategic objectives of parliament. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly and wish them fruitful engagements during their stay in the country. I thank you, members. There's another communication. Let me start with Bonchari. May the members who are making their way in please do so quickly and take your seats. Honourable members, it is with deep sorrow that I wish to notify the House of the untimely passing on of the member from Ponchari constituency, the Honourable John Oro Oyoka, MP, who passed on yesterday, Monday, 15th February 2021, while undergoing treatment at Aga Khan Hospital, Kisumu. Honourable members, the late Honorable John Oro Oyoka was born on the 5th of May 1950 in Ponchari. He attended Cardinal Otunga Mosocho High School, where he obtained his O-level certificate in 1970. He proceeded to Strathmore for A-level and thereafter joined the University of Nairobi, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Education, Science option in 1976. The late Honorable Oyoka worked as a high school teacher in various stations, including Cheptenye High School, Kaaga Girls High School, and Kericho Day High School. His Excellence enabled him to rise to the position of Education Officer and later to the level of Assistant Director for Education at the Ministry of Education Headquarters, a position he held until his retirement in 1999. He had immense enthusiasm for education as a tool for securing the future of young people through impartation of skills and values. Honourable members, the late Honourable Oyoka made his debut in elective politics in 2013 when he contested for and won the Ponchari constituency parliamentary seat on a Kenya National African Union in brackets KANU party ticket. His stint was, however, short-lived because he lost the seat in a by-election that was held in 2014 following nullification of his election results by the High Court. The late Honorable Oyoka was re-elected to the National Assembly in the 2017 general elections, when he successfully reclaimed the parliamentary seat on the People's Democratic Party, PDP ticket. Until his demise, he was a dedicated member of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Honourable members, the late Honourable Oyoka was a devoted legislator who passionately articulated issues of concern to his electorate through parliamentary questions and relentlessly served the interests of his people. In terms of legislation, the late member had sponsored the Central Bank of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, which was read a first time on July 28, 2020, and is awaiting second reading. Through the bill, the late member sought to anchor in law a legal framework that would obligate the Central Bank of Kenya to regulate digital financial lending products and services. In honor of the late Honorable Oyoka, I urge the relevant departmental committee to consider taking up the bill and moving its consideration in the pending stages. The parliamentary fraternity will forever remember the late Honorable Oyoka for his humility, friendliness, and belief in collegiality during his time as a member of this House. Our members, on behalf of all members and staff of the National Assembly, and indeed on my own behalf, I wish to convey my condolences to the family of the late Honorable John Oro Oyoka, the people of Bonchari constituency, and all his relatives and friends during this difficult time of mourning their departed leader. As the National Assembly, we assure the family of our support during this period of great sorrow. In this regard, honourable members, and in line with the Parliamentary Service Commission's bereavement policy, I have constituted an ad hoc committee to help with the funeral arrangements. The committee comprises of the following: the Honorable Ben Momanyi, MP, member of the Parliamentary Service Commission and Commissioner as the chairperson; the Honorable Richard Onyonka, MP; the Honorable Samuel Arama, MP; the Honorable Joash Nyamoko, MP; the Honorable Richard Tongi, MP; the Honorable Jerusha Momanyi, MP; the Honorable Geoffrey Odanga, MP; the Honorable Innocent Momanyi, MP; and the Honorable Janet Ongera, MP. I've also requested the Speaker of the Senate to nominate 2 senators to the ad hoc committee. Honourable members are therefore encouraged to liaise with the ad hoc committee on matters relating to the funeral and interment of our departed colleague. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, honourable members. I will take my seat briefly for those members, to allow those members to make their way in before I make the next communication. Honour members who are making your way in, please take your seats. Take your seats if you desire to sit at all. Honourable members, as you are already aware, the week started off on a very sad note for the country, the residents of Garissa County, and indeed the nation as a whole, following the demise of the Honourable Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, MP. The Honourable member passed on in the morning of yesterday, Monday, the 15th of February, 2021, while undergoing treatment at the Aga Khan University Hospital in Nairobi. Honourable members, the late Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji was born on 23rd of December 1940 and attended his post-secondary education where he earned a degree from the University of Birmingham, majoring in management and finance control. His parliamentary career commenced when he was nominated in 1998 to Parliament and appointed as an assistant minister in the office of the President. The late Honorable Haji was elected on a Kanu ticket to represent the Ijara constituency in the National Assembly in 2002, again on a Kanu ticket. He was also re-elected in the 9th Parliament when he again won on a Kanu ticket during the general elections of 27th December 2007. During this term of Parliament, he was appointed Minister of State for Defense. He is fondly remembered for his resolute and brave leadership, as shown when he led the Kenyan delegation to Mogadishu, Somalia, on the 18th of October 2011 to meet with the Transitional Federal Government of Somalia, TFG, officials to discuss security matters and cooperation amongst other assignments. Honourable members, at the time of his death, the late Honourable Senator Haji was serving his 4th term as a Member of Parliament. He was also the chairperson of the Building Bridges Initiative, in brackets BBI, task force, appointed to coordinate the review of the Constitution of Kenya by His Excellency the President. The late Senator Yusuf Haji was a dependable leader who served Kenyans with utmost commitment. He was selfless, ambitious, realistic, resourceful, and committed to public service. Truly, his approach to leadership, and as heartfully said by the Honorable Eden Duale, Member of Parliament for Garissa Township, and I quote, "His guidance will be greatly missed as a man who advocated for peace and harmony among communities across the country during his lifetime," close the quote. Without doubt, honorable members, the residents of Garissa County, the entire Parliament of Kenya, and the nation at large have lost a vibrant, pragmatic, and dedicated leader. The member was laid to rest yesterday at the Langata Cemetery in accordance with Islamic tradition and faith, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Honourable members, in tribute and honor to the departed colleagues, the late Honorable John Oro Oyoka, MP, and the late Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, MP, I request that we all stand to observe a moment of silence. May their souls rest in eternal peace.
Order number 3.
No, just a minute. Let me say there are members who want to make some very, very brief comments, please, so that you can hear as many as possible. Honorable Apio and I.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to, on my behalf and on behalf of the people of Ugunja constituency, to join the families, friends, and relatives of the late Honorable Mohammed Yusuf Haji and the late Honorable John Oyoka on their untimely passing on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the two honorable members have left an indelible mark, yes, for the time they have served in this parliament, Mr. Speaker. I remember specifically the late Honorable Oyoka having served with me in the 11th parliament, although for a very short time indeed, as you rightly put it. Mr. Speaker, the late Oyoka was known for humility of his own kind, Mr. Speaker. He was a man who was at peace with almost everybody, and therefore, at this difficult time, let me just wish the family well and pray that God rest their souls in eternal peace. Thank you.
Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to join my colleagues in saying this yesterday was really a bad day. Starting in the morning with the sad news on Senator Haji and closing the day with Honorable Oyoka. And it's a kind of day you don't want to relive as you go through. But God knows better. We're here to take our two colleagues. And the most we can do is to deal with the matters as they arise, comfort the families, and wish them and their souls to peaceful rest in eternity as we then think of what else we need to do here. I knew Senator Haji in my early days. And like the late Nyechai, both of them served in Nyandarua, and he was a DC for Nyandarua. And hence, even when we met here in the House, our friendship was then anchored on that earlier history. And then we served together in cabinet. So again, we got intertwined. And between himself, the late Nyechai, the late Karume, the late Michuki, really there were a group of elders who had the full support and respect of the former President Kibaki. And for some of us, we were not sure whether we are relating as colleagues or as their son's equivalent. You know, when they call you and you sit, you know, and you chat, you are very conscious that these are our fathers. But the relationship was maintained from very professional, and we learned quite a bit. Honorable Oyoka, I served with him in the Education Committee, and I've not seen such a cool gentleman, very polite, very knowledgeable on matters of education, but even in the interactions with people who appeared before the Education Committee, you could see the richness of his knowledge, but he never had that condescending attitude that people would have on people who, you know, on ministry officials when they appear, and actually was, you know, very polite. So it's a sad loss to lose him, but we have to accept God's will. Now, in line with our tradition, as well for Honorable Oyoka members, you know, we have a standing arrangement where each of us make our contribution. I know it's voluntary, but everyone does it. So you're at liberty to top it up, but what I've done, I've signed the instructions to the clerk, and I think my colleague will also countersign, so that we can at least have a centralized, coordinated way of passing on our contribution. Because we start looking for it through M-Pesas and all that, it will get disorganized. But I think through the clerk's office, they will be able to sort out that, and we have one considered check that the speaker can be able to hand over. So I thank you very much for the support to our colleague, and I do hope we shall also extend that to in terms of the funeral processes. I was very amused yesterday, obviously, when we went to Senator Haji's funeral, coming straight from Kisii, Nyechai's funeral, our former colleague, Senator Haji's funeral, and the contrast was like day and night between the Christian version and the Muslim version, and there are lessons to be learned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Makali Mulu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me also join my colleagues in conveying my condolences on my own behalf, on behalf of my family, and on behalf of the good people of Kitui Central and the Kitui County at large. Honorable Speaker, I know Honorable Olo, and as well I know Senator Haji. I've interacted with them at a personal level, and I must say that be close to this country, Honorable Speaker. And I want really to encourage the families that God gave and He has taken, and we can only say His name be blessed. So I want to really pray that during these trying moments, Honorable Speaker, God strengthens the two families and their relatives. May their soul rest in eternal peace. Amen.
Honorable Duale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I join you and the entire legislature that yesterday was a very sad day for Kenya and the legislature. In the morning at 5:30, we lost our father, our mentor, a man we respect all, Senator Haji. And in the evening, for those of us who attended both burials, we were again shocked to learn the death of our colleague, Honorable Nyoka. Honorable Speaker, let me speak for Honorable Haji. Honorable Haji, the Speaker, is a man who introduced me into politics in 2007, despite both of us coming from two different parties. But Honorable Haji was a man who was very much respected in Kenya by all citizens. He worked in all provinces, whether it's the Rift Valley, Nairobi, Western, Eastern, and had a very checkered career both here and even within our neighbors. He participated in the stabilization and the war against terror when he was a Minister for Defense. Honorable Haji, for a long time, was the chairman of the Northeastern Parliamentary Group meeting. And he was known for two things. One, he speaks his mind and he speaks the truth. And as we remember Honorable Haji, and the role he played in the BBI as a chair, I think it will be very, very fair that the constituency called Ijara, which has recorded more than 350,000 citizens in the last census, for him to be remembered must be accorded an extra constituency. That is what I think the President and the former Prime Minister and those who are in the forefront of the BBI should do, because the people of Garissa expected, at least as a chair and as a requirement. Speaker, finally, you allow me to read one very important prayer for the dead, according to the Muslims. And I'm sure Honorable Kimunya said it yesterday. They were shocked, you know, him and the President, everybody, and the Deputy President and the former Prime Minister, how we bury our dead, the cost involved, and the time involved. Honorable Nyachai died 2 weeks ago, and he was buried yesterday. Honorable Haji died yesterday morning, and he was buried at 4:30 p.m. in accordance with our Islamic religion. Speaker, now let me just read this prayer for him. Oh Allah, surely Honorable Senator Haji is under your protection and in the rope of your security. So save him from the trial of the grave and from the punishment of the fire. You fulfill promises, O Allah. Grant him rights and forgive him and have mercy on him. Surely, O Allah, you are the most forgiving and you are the most merciful. Amen, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Amunyinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join you and colleagues in sending a message of condolence to the families of our departed colleagues, the Honorable Yusuf Haji and the Honorable Yoka. But Mr. Speaker, I want to specifically say that I had the opportunity to know Mr. Honorable Yusuf Haji, Senator, very well, Mr. Speaker. I have, apart from being a colleague here in Parliament, he has been our PC in Western and was very close to our family. Mr. Speaker, he has been described as a nationalist, a statesman, very patriotic, and an advocate of peace and stability of our country. Mr. Speaker, I had the chance to work with the Honorable Yusuf Haji when I was head of mission in Somalia as special representative of the President, Mr. Speaker. And even during those visits, the one referred to of 2011, Mr. Speaker, I was in Mogadishu and I received him and the meetings that he had towards the promotion of the process of reconciliation and stabilization of Somalia will not be forgotten, Mr. Speaker. He left a mark in the efforts to stabilize Somalia, Mr. Speaker, and this will go a long way as the people of Somalia strive to ensure their peace is back to normalcy. Mr. Speaker, as Kenyans, we have lost a pillar. We have lost a strong Kenyan who participated in the BBI process as chair, the Building Bridges Initiative as chairperson. Unfortunately, he is not going to see it through, but we hope in his honor, we're going to have everybody support the BBI, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, we wish the family strength during this period, and may their souls rest in peace. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Pukose.
Honorable Speaker, I want to join you and Parliament to convey my condolence to the family of Senator Haji and also the family of our honorable colleague, Honorable John Oyo. Honorable Speaker, I happen to have met Senator Haji on several occasions. More so, our meeting used to be in the gym. Whenever we are in the gym, he would come there and come for massage and a little bit of exercise. And he would not assume anybody. He's a guy who would talk to most of us, especially the younger generation, and give advice. He was very courteous, a gentleman, a guy whom I would say is a good human being. And Honorable Speaker, I think the people of Garissa will really miss his services. I also convey my condolence to the people of Ponjari. Honorable Speaker, our late colleague, I think it was a very sad thing. And occasionally, I think the social media should, it plays some role. And it sends mixed signals, yes, especially yesterday, where others are saying he's dead, others are saying he's still alive. And finally, it was confirmed. It's a sad day, Honorable Speaker, and it's not a very good experience, especially for those who write social media. It's good to have it controlled to a certain extent. Honorable Speaker, the death of Senator Haji tells us that having been a chair of the PPI, tells us that we should do things that are for posterity, not doing them for just ourselves. Let's do it for the future generations, because we are passing by. Our time will come and all of us will live. But let's make a document that will be able to live with the time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Deputy Speaker.
Well, I think I can. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just like my colleagues, I wish to pass my condolences to the family of our colleagues. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, 15th of February, is one of the saddest days of parliamentary calendars. Yesterday, we lost two of our members and buried one, who is a former member of this House. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity, I'm sure like yourself, to serve with all the members, including Honorable Nyachai. And to start with the Honorable Oro Oyoka, Mr. Speaker, when he was, when court declared him a member of parliament, because remember, there was a petition, and for the first time in the parliamentary history, there was a swap of members. I'm one of the members, because then I was in Kanu, together with the Honorable Oyoka himself, of escorting him on the day he was sworn. And I remember how disappointed he was with the National Assembly, because when he came here that particular date, he was given an opportunity to speak. And of course, we would have expected him to thank and do all the things, but because there were some murmurs in the House, I think Oyoka was very disappointed and thought that this place behaved like a marketplace, and he put it on record. But of course, over time, he ended up learning that that was part of debate in this House. And for Honorable Haji, Mr. Speaker, in 2002, when he was first elected, that's the time I was also elected, and with yourself, we were all in Kano then, and we were 68 of us, and we are therefore a very close family. We got to learn about Honorable Haji's behavior in the House, a gentleman and a fatherly figure. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, is him when he was the provincial administrator, the PC of the Rift Valley, which was our home province. There was a very surprising thing about him. He, in his own house, he had a mosque. He built a mosque. We have always referred Honorable Haji as one of the most religious provincial administrators in Nakuru, together with Honorable Raburu. Because Honorable Haji, as I said, had a mosque in his own house, and the Honorable Raburu is the provincial administrator who put the 10 commandments in the PC's office. With that, Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity again to send my condolences and say pole to the families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also pass my condolence message on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Kadiani in Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, these deaths have, we've actually lost 3 leaders in quick succession in the recent past. And I just look at it and I see maybe this is a message from God that we need to learn some few things. First, we need to be able to note that all of us will go one day. And so when we are here, let's be humble, let's respect one another, and also respect the dead, because in the recent past, Mr. Speaker, we've seen people fighting in funerals when people are mourning, families are mourning, politicians are there fighting, throwing punches, throwing kicks. So, Mr. Speaker, that should be one of the lessons for us to learn. Mr. Speaker, we also need to allow the families to mourn. And I want to say that when we lost our Senator Kabaka in Machakos County, unfortunately, the UDA party fielded a candidate even before this senator was buried. And that was really a very negative show. So I want to say that we need to respect each other, allow families to mourn for a short period, and then after that we can engage in politics. Right now, Mr. Speaker, there must be people who are looking at these seats and planning and strategizing, which is really unfortunate for us as a nation. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I like what the Honorable Pukose has said. The Honorable Senator Haji was chairman of BBI. Maybe in his remembrance, I would urge Kenyans to pass BBI in large numbers so that we can have good memories for his future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on my own behalf, on behalf of my family, and on behalf of the 6.5 million Kenyans with disability I represent in this House, may I take this opportunity to send our sincere condolences to the family of Yusuf Haji, the late Bonchari MP, John. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I've known John as a very good gentleman who loved everybody. And Honorable Speaker, in one occasion, I was almost falling down outside these premises, Honorable Speaker, because it's a bit slippery sometimes when they do the waxing near the dining, Honorable Speaker. And he actually assisted me, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is a dark day yesterday, and not only yesterday, but in the last few months, Honorable Speaker, it has become almost synonymous with when NAC took over, Honorable Speaker, where members of parliament in large numbers were lost, Honorable Speaker. And today again, we are witnessing. That is why, Honorable Speaker, through you, Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon our religious leaders, led by Bishop, fathers, imams, all of them, to pray for our country so that God can redeem our nation. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. May their soul rest in eternal peace.
Member for Alego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of my family and the people of Alego Usonga, I join you and my colleagues in sending my condolences to the families of the late MP for Bonchari, Oro Yoka, and the late Garissa Senator, Honorable Haji. Honorable Speaker, the late Oyoka was a very humble politician. He was not like many of us who are either loud or vocal
But when I asked members of parliament from Kisii, they told me that even though he was very humble here, but on the ground he was very effective. And this is demonstrated in the number of programs that he initiated and the love that the people of Bonchari had of him. I want to say that, most politicians think that the best way to be a leader is to be as noisy as possible. But I think learning from the life of the late Honorable Oyoka, it is important for us just to be people who are humble and to be effective and to earn the love and the trust of the people that elected us. Honorable Speaker, on Honorable Haji, I think he left an indelible mark in the mark of this country. And this is something that has been confirmed by everybody. The only thing I would like to say and to request on behalf of Haji is that because on his last days as a politician in this country, as a leader in this country, together with other leaders, the BBI program, he was the driver of the BBI program. If there's anything that we would really remember him for, is the successful accomplishment and passage of BBI for the benefit of the people of Kenya. I would like to appeal to members of parliament in this house, and especially the MP for Garissa Township, who has spoken heartily about the life of Honorable Haji, and who says that Honorable Haji is his mentor. I want him to come out of this house today and claim and support BBI process so that the process is accomplished. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kipkelion East.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to join the rest of members on behalf of my family, on behalf of the people of Kipkelion East, where I represent, and the people of Kericho County as a whole. Mr. Speaker, I want to convey the message of condolences to the two families of Honorable Haji and Oyoka. Mr. Speaker, the sad news really was very shocking, Mr. Speaker, because from the word go, the country was only prepared to send off the late Nyachai. But yesterday, the sad news of Haji came in the morning, and I want to join the rest of Kenyans by saying that we have really lost a very serious administrator. Mr. Speaker, he was a leader. He was a leader when I was a student at Nakuru, and he was one of the longest serving provincial commissioners in Nakuru. He was a serious administrator. He did a lot for the people, and he was a very serious peacemaker, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Senate has lost somebody who was very well balanced, Mr. Speaker. I remember, I think one of the senators saying that at some point when Senate decides something, they used to get a word of wisdom from Senator late Haji. I remember in this house, Mr. Speaker, in the 11th Parliament, I remember the time when the Honorable Dalmas Otieno was in high demand, especially when we are at loggerheads, Mr. Speaker. And I think that's what Yusuf was playing in Senate, because he was well balanced, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Oyoka, I actually came to know him when I was a finance chair. He used to come to our committee more often to articulate issues concerning finance sector, Mr. Speaker. He was a serious legislator, and he was actually one of the shortest, if he was not the shortest, serving member of parliament, the 11th Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I want to join the rest of Kenyans sending condolences to the two families and say that may God give them strength to withstand this trying moment. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Member for Daragwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to convey my condolences and those of the people of Daragwa to the family of John Oyoka and Senator Yusuf Haji. Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity of serving during the 10th Parliament together with Senator Haji. And as my colleagues have said, it is true that that was a true nationalist. We had an opportunity to engage during the making of our 2010 Constitution. and he thinks like a true Kenyan, believing that all Kenyans living wherever they are need to be treated equally. And I tell you, those of us who had an opportunity of serving with such gentlemen learned a lot. I believe with the proposed changes in the Constitution, members of the National Assembly will have an opportunity of interacting with senior, those who have been there a little longer. And when you interact with them, when you serve together with them in the same assembly or in the same chamber, you are able to learn a lot from them. And I learned a lot from Mzee Yusuf Haji. I call him Mzee, Senator Yusuf Haji. And again, as the leader of our majority leader has said, the senator was also a DC, he was a PC in our region. So we, other than the people of Daragwa, even the people of Nyandarua, remember him for very different reasons. One of the things that is certain about him is that he was a human being. You could approach him. Even those days of the provincial administration, he wasn't a person who would be available to harass you. So we also remember him, and we have things that he did in our areas back home as a PC that we remember him, and I think he's certainly a good example of what we should be as Kenyans. The role he played in the drafting of the BBI, and even seeing him at Bomas, and you could tell that at Bomas he wasn't very strong, but then the call for that helping the country to come together, I could see was overwhelming to him. And I think it is befitting for us to urge Kenyans to honor him by passing the BBI. That is what came to my mind when I learned of his passing on. Mr. Speaker, let me also draw some parallels, like was mentioned by the former majority leader. It's only yesterday, after almost more than 10 days, when Mr. Nyachai left us. But it took the Christians that number of days to bury him. It took hours to bury Yusuf Haji. And even members who are seated here, because we feel like we are important in one way or another, and we are, when we pass on, because our day is also coming, we are likely to serve, to be left giving people problems for that long, 10, 14 days. But I was wondering, how many of us who have a checkered performance like that of Yusuf Haji? Yet, he was dealt with within hours. So what reason would any of us have to be left on tables and in courtrooms for some 14, 15 days? I think it's something that we need to run from the way they dealt with Yusuf Haji. Let me conclude by saying also, Mr. Speaker, that whole management of the body of Yusuf Haji will have costed the family maybe something like 10, 20,000. And it costs 2-3 million shillings to handle those in the Christian community. I think there's something that Christians can learn from on this aspect from the Muslims. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I hope it's not just Christians, because I was just trying to calculate the other day how many months it took before the former Secretary General of the United Nations, the late Kofi Annan, before he was buried. And more recently, how many months it took before the late President of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, was buried. So I think some of it could be custom. It could be customs and traditions. It might not just be a matter of religion. If many of you if you can reflect when it is that the late Kofi Annan died and when he was buried, it was not less than 2 months. The late Jerry Rawlings, I think, passed on sometimes in October, and I was buried, I think, last month. So, and I also know, those of you who belong to the CPA family, the Honorable Makali Mulu is in the house. He would tell you how long it took to bury a relative of one of the senior officials of the CPA Africa region. I think there's something to do with tradition, but I think, you rightly pointed out, Honorable Kioni and Honorable Kimunya, I think there are still lessons to be learned, and maybe even as we talk about either whether it is religion or tradition or custom, I think there's something that we each could learn from the other, and perhaps then we could see some little bit of reduction of the agony that accompanies those long sessions of living with the corpses. Nominated member Sosion.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I join you and the rest of the members in conveying my condolence and that of the teachers of this country, and also by extension the workers, to the families of Senator Yusuf Haji and a Member of Parliament, Honorable Orionga. Senator Yusuf Haji has been praised very much in this House and in the country as an outstanding statesman. From my personal experience in 1990, when we trekked all the way from Egerton to Nakuru town to protest the killing of Foreign Minister and Member for Kisumu Town, Dr. Robert Ouko, we were received by the PC as students, and we brought the town to a standstill, and he was able to handle us very well in an emotive moment, and addressed us very well as university students, and gave us Nyayo buses to take us back to the university. And that was my first interaction with the provincial commissioner. All over the country has been praised in terms of education. And in Rift Valley, his work and input to education is unmatched. And I remember in one of the schools, Kipsigis Girls, there is a dormitory that is named after Yusuf Haji. It is not very easy for a girls' school of that magnitude to name a senior public officer after a dormitory. Honorable Speaker, while in this House, with a lot of humility, in 2 occasions, Honorable Yusuf Haji approached me and engaged in discussions on 2 matters. One about Ijara Nat branch, and I was so surprised about the details and the concerns that he had about a Nat branch in Ijara. And it's one of the smallest branches we have in the country. And number 2, he engaged me very strongly in terms of teacher welfare and deployment of teachers in Northern Kenya, a matter that we've discussed with members of Parliament of Northern Kenya. And he was deeply concerned about ensuring that Northern Kenyan children also access qualified teachers in their classrooms. So in short, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Yusuf Haji's role in this country, with a lot of humility, I think is an outstanding statesman that all of us ought really to emulate. And in honor of Yusuf Haji, a lot has been said. He was the chair of BBI, and how he handled the BBI, even during presentations, of course, depicts a very, very serious statesman. And I join my colleagues in urging the rest of us who are still very averse and have issues with the BBI to reconsider as the greatest gift to Honorable Yusuf Haji, because this country requires both political and economic stability, and any process like BBI should really be treated, and we should all rise above pettiness and ensure we deliver something that is good. And I'm sure the success of BBI will be one of the biggest gifts to Honorable Yusuf Haji. And for Honorable Orionga, as an outstanding teacher and a serious member of this parliament, of course, I had an opportunity to work with him in the Education Committee. And I can remember he was a very strong voice of reason, Honorable Speaker, and sometimes when my emotions are a bit high, he would always cool me and bring me down. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, these 2 great men have done a wonderful job in this country. They've left an indelible mark, and may their souls rest in eternal peace. And those of us who are remaining to carry on with leadership in this country, we hope we'll do all our best to ensure that we rediscover values in this country and bequeath it in the citizens, so that this country can also get great men and women and leaders of great integrity and value like the Honorable Yusuf Haji and Honorable Yonga. May their souls rest in eternal peace.
May I suggest that you don't take more than 1 minute if I'm going to get, because there are far too many requests, and obviously I appreciate, honor members, I appreciate that, yes, these are our colleagues, and many of you have many kind ones that you may wish to say, but you see, at the end of the day, we still have to transact business. Life must also continue. All right, like Honorable Sosiona said, sometimes when his emotions will be high, the Honorable Oro would cool him down. I would urge that you now remain cool. You remain cool for the rest of this sitting. But don't take too long so that we can have as many of you as possible, because there's a business to be transacted. I'm only dealing with those on interventions. Member for Kitutu Masaba. I'm following this, how you have placed your request on the intervention button. Those of you who don't know how to use the intervention button, please just relax. You can listen to what is being said and associate yourself with it.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. May I take this opportunity also on my own behalf and that of my family and the people of Kitutu Masaba to pass my condolences to the family of the late Honorable John Oro Oyoka of Bonjari. Honorable Oyoka was an extremely humble and amiable person. And when I come to Honorable Senator Yusuf Haji, is an icon. He has left a track record in this country. May their soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
For Samburu North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I also want to convey my condolences and the condolences of my family and the people of Samburu North and Samburu in general. I want to say that for both the late Onyoka and the late Yusuf Haji families. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I know Mohamed Haji, our former senator, and also provincial commissioner, Mohamed Yusuf Haji. I happened to know him from the 1989 when I joined provincial administration, when I was serving in Northeastern. And later again, I worked with him in Rift Valley while I was in Kerisho, and he was the PC. And this is a very great Kenyan, very strong, very great disciplinarian. I think I can say that he mentored me because during our time, he used to advise us as well as also warning us on issues concerning administration. And I think that time, during wherever he served, most of the provinces Yusuf Haji served were calm because of good leadership he showed. So I think we have lost a great Kenyan, a patriot, and a good leader, and may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Members, I'm strictly following the request button. Member for Gilgil.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii. Naungana na wenzangu kwa kutoa rambirambi zangu binafsi za familia yangu na za watu wa Gilgil kwa wenda zao. Na Bwana Spika, hili bunge la 12 tumekuwa na misiba mingi sana ambayo inaguza wenzetu, na tunaomba kwamba Mola aisitishe na isipite hapo, na tunaomba pia Mungu awape walaze mahali pema. Na niliweza kutumika na Seneta Yusuf Haji kwenye bunge la 11 kama seneta, na alikuwa mwenye heshima kwa ambale ni wazee na wale pia ambao tulikuwa wadogo wake. Alikuwa mwenye uadilifu, alikuwa mwenye maarifa, na nafikiri pia aliweza kutudhihirishia kwamba unaweza ukaingia bunge kwa kuteuliwa na ukarudi pia ukaomba nafasi kwa kutumika na ukachaguliwa. Alichaguliwa sio mara moja, sio mara mbili, karibu miaka 20. Kwa hivyo wametutengenezea njia na sisi wote tunamfuata, na tunasema kwamba hata wakati rais alimchagua kukuwa kiongozi katika huu mchakato wa kuleta uwiano, alikuwa ameangalia uadilifu wake wa kazi, alikuwa mcha Mungu na alipenda watu wote bila kuangalia kabila, bila kuangalia miaka. Na Bwana Spika, hata tunapokuwa tukiandika historia ama kitabu cha historia cha nchi hii, nafikiri marehemu Mheshimiwa Yusuf Haji atakuwa amejiandikia sio aya bali sura mzima sababu ya kazi yake. Asante Bwana Spika kwa nafasi hiyo.
Member for Tharaka.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to join you and the House in conveying my condolences to the two families of the deceased members, the Honorable Oro Oyoka Bonchari and Honorable Yusuf Haji of Garissa. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honorable Oyoka was actually a very amiable man who actually had no many words as we interacted with him in this house. He's a man who actually gave us a lot of guidance in how to go about doing our business here, and we will miss him. The Honorable Yusuf Haji, I came to know him when I was a young lad in high school, when we used to go and sing for them patriotic Kanu songs as young school children, as he administers the country from Eldoret and Nakuru. An astute administrator, a man who actually stood his word, and a man who ensured that there was order in everything that we did. The country has lost great sons, and we actually mourn with their families and with the rest of the country. May their souls rest in everlasting peace.
Member for Nabaholo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on my behalf and on behalf of the people of Navaholo, Honorable Speaker, allow me to pass my condolences to the two families, the family of the late Honorable Senator Yusuf Haji and the late Honorable Oro Oyoka. Honorable Speaker, I have the good memories that we had with Honorable Oyoka, whom I first met, Honorable Speaker, in the corridors of justice in 2014, in the Court of Appeal in Kisumu, Honorable Speaker. We were both being presented before the court, following up the petition. We used to sit together, Honorable Speaker, the whole day until we got what the justice from the Honorable Speaker. He was a patient man, he was a man of wisdom, and his words were very few, Honorable Speaker. He could choose the words to use, but words of wisdom, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, about the Senator Yusuf Haji, he is a great man, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, once in a while we could meet, and he used to quote, Honorable Speaker, the Christian version of in the Bible, Honorable Speaker. Being a Muslim, he used to tell me that, young man, Christians say you must respect those in authority. And Honorable Speaker, being a Muslim, I used to wonder how can a Muslim understand the Bible? But he quoted it because, Honorable Speaker, he had high respect for the rule of law, and he had high respect for the government of the day. He is a great man whom I really will miss, and I want to wish the people of Garissa that let God choose for them the next leader. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kilifi North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to join you and colleagues here, and on behalf of my family and the people of Kilifi North and the people of Kilifi County in general, to give our sincere condolences to the families of the two deceased colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak about Senator Haji, who served at the Coast Region as a provincial commissioner from 1985. And I think it is during this time, during his tenure as county commissioner there, that a lot of the issues that we experienced in Coast, especially the land issues, were solved. So we would give credit. Senator Haji, up to today, is a regular visitor of Kilifi. I think his son, the DPP, was actually born in Kilifi. And every year, they come as a family to Kilifi. And I had an opportunity around October to see them as a family in Kilifi. And he was a great family man. I think one of the great character of Senator Haji, which I saw, and he would bring his whole family, his great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren, for a one-week holiday in Kilifi. And I think this is one thing that has not been said, that he was a great family man. But above all, I think I take one lesson from him, that he was a great administrator, and that everywhere he has served, he has left an indelible mark of performance, of progress, and of good leadership. And I think these are traits and character that we need to emulate as young leaders as we come forward as young leaders. So I would like to pray that God rest the souls of these two colleagues in eternal peace. Thank you.
Member for Malava.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also join the members of the National Assembly to pass my condolences to the family of Oro and the family of Yusuf. Particularly, I want to remember Oyo. We used to serve on the same committee, education. And Mr. Speaker, this is a person who was so humble on the committee, and this is a person who was so active when it comes to contribution on the education committee. Mr. Speaker, I noted that when it comes to parliamentary issues, most persons contribute so much positively in committees like Oyoka was. And in fact, I would like to urge the House, if the process of transmitting committee proceedings live can be hastened, because like Oyoka was so active on education committee and like on the floor of the House as it is. Mr. Speaker, I urge that their souls rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Central Imenti.
Mr. Speaker, I join you in mourning these two great Kenyans. The Senator of Garissa and our colleague John have been great Kenyans, and especially the Senator for Garissa has been a so close man to my community, Meru, having contributed to peace when there were differences between the Somali community and the Meru community from our area as pertains Mera to Late. He really contributed so much in a way that it cannot be forgotten, and his word has been being taken in Meru seriously as a peacemaker. And as for that, even this time when he was going around collecting views about BBI, Aji was so much respected. And really, because he's one of those people who came at Kamunde Hall for collecting views, our people were so much confidence to give views to him, and they knew that it is going to reach. It's unfortunate that he has left us before he could see the final results of this BBI. We hope those people who are being left behind to propel the same are going to be like Aji, reasonable, and they are going at least to accommodate each other and see that BBI is not going to divide us, but it's going to unite us. As per our colleague John, we are praying that the Almighty Lord rest his peace, rest his sorrow in eternal peace, because he has been very good to us and kind to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for the Great South.
Mr. Speaker, it is on my behalf and on behalf of my family and the people of the Great South that I rise to send a message of condolence to the families of the Honorable Senator Haji and the Honorable Member, Honorable Oro. Mr. Speaker, in addition to what has been said here, I do believe that the House never acts in vain, Mr. Speaker. I speak in regard to how people are handling messages of death and how they are being transmitted. Mr. Speaker, as we pass condolences to these two families, we realize that the mode in which we are learning of the passing of dear members in this country is becoming a bit untidy, Mr. Speaker. This House did, in its own motion, pass the computer misuse and the misuse bill, Mr. Speaker, which went to court and was and faced a lot of headwinds. And the Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba was part of the committee that I sat in that was forwarding this bill. But we saw how the death of our colleague was transmitted even to us, Mr. Speaker. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that we might not be able to legislate on habits and bad manners, Mr. Speaker. However, as a country, we need to go back to the sensitivities of such matters, Mr. Speaker. The moment an individual passes, it is the business of their loved ones. It is the business of their families. We would like to call upon people who are handling these gadgets, people who are operating as bloggers, people who have taken and arrogated upon themselves the duty of transmitting fake news. that issues of death are very sensitive to the loved ones of these members, Mr. Speaker. In condoling the Honorable Senator
Member for Taita Taveta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity. And on my own behalf and the people of Taita Taveta, I want to convey my condolences to the people of Buchari and Garissa and the family members of the deceased. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have lost very humble and peace-loving Kenyans and leaders who are really devoted to their cause. And Mr. Speaker, from us leaders, we want to say it's a rest in peace. Death is inevitable, and yesterday was truly a dark day for Kenyans. May their soul rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Tinderet.
No. Honorable Speaker, I joined you and my colleague members of Parliament on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Trinidad to pass my condolence to the families of Honorable Members Yusuf Haji and Honorable Oro Oyoka. Honorable Speaker, as all members have said, Yusuf Haji served as a very good provincial commissioner in Rift Valley for many years. When we were young in school, we were told how good he administered the region. Honorable Speaker, it is during this time that a number of communities were settled, a number of schools were put up, a number of institutions were set up. So we've lost a great Kenyan who has done a lot for this country. For Oyoka, Honorable Speaker, I served together with him as member of Education Committee. He was a very diligent, hard-working member. He participated in all committee deliberations. He was very humble. He actually had a number of deliberations in Education Committee go through. He was such a very good member, and I therefore pass my condolences to him and the family. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kikuyu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and also rise on behalf of the people of Kikuyu and my family to convey my condolences to the family of the late Haji and Mheshimiwa Oyoka. Honorable Speaker, the late Honorable Haji has served this country diligently for many years, and I pray that God will grant his family, and especially someone like the DPP who is in public service, the strength to serve in the spirit that his father served in. Honorable Speaker, I want to say, Honorable Speaker, the late Oyoka had a bill, Honorable Speaker, that is before this House, and probably the best legacy that we can give to the late Oyoka and his family and the people that he's represented is to see, as much as that bill he had sponsored alone, it may not be there, we may not be able to continue with it, Honorable Speaker, but because it had the same features as a bill sponsored by Honorable Gideon Ketero, Honorable Speaker, probably it is time as a legacy, a lasting legacy for the late Honorable Oyoka, to bring in the Central Bank Amendment Bill provisions that the late Oyoka had and factor them into the Gideon Keter Bill as a legacy, Honorable Speaker, to protect the Hustler Nation, Honorable Speaker, on digital lending companies that are really harassing and the Hustler Nation people and Kenyans who are in business from the digital licensing, Honorable Speaker. And because the late Oyoka had this thought of being able to protect the people of Kenya and not just the people he represented from these digital lenders, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge the House, in his memory, we incorporate the provisions he had in that bill into the Gideon Keter bill that has similar provisions as a lasting legacy that the country will remember the late Oyoka for. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Samburu.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kunipatia nafasi hii nitoe pole yangu na pole ya Wasamburu County kwa wale wenzetu wamehaga. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa tu kusema Senator Haji ni kiongozi hata saulika katika Kenya. Kwa sababu Senator Haji ni mtu ameshikilia Kenya tangu utoto yake, amepitia president wa 4 katika Kenya. Na ni mzee tunasema Mwenyezi Mungu bila amemchukua aweke tu pahali mzuri kwa roho ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Mr. Speaker, Senator Haji ni mtu imelea sisi wengine. Ni mzee ametulea, ni mzee ana njia yote kukuongoza. Sisi kwa viongozi ni moja yeye ndio moja ile ametukua tukue. Mr. Speaker, Senator Haji ni vile haitasaulika. Lakini kile ningependa kusema nafasi yake ni Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye atarudishia sisi Kenya, mwenye mwingine atakuwa kama yeye. Yeye ni mzee, hana upaguzi, hana ukabila, hana chochote. Ni mtu akikuambia ndio anakuwa ndio, akikuambia pana anakuwa pana. Ningeshukuru kwa sababu wakati alikuwa chamani yetu ya BBI, Senator Haji akiwa chamani yetu ya BBI, hakuwa mtu anataka mambo ya kwenda hivi. Alikuwa ni mzee anasimama kama leader, na alikuwa anatuambia hakuna chochote itawekwa BBI isipokuwa ni ule mwananchi.
Member Honorable Mbarire. Honorable member, it's only 2 minutes. Member, so you just speak quickly, otherwise you just...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too rise to give my personal condolences to the family of Senator Yusuf Haji, a good friend of mine, and the Honorable Oyoka, who have since left us. And Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that it is sad that we've lost Yusuf Haji, who played a very key role as a unifying factor, especially in the parliament before he became a senator. And may I just remind this House that after the post-election violence of 2007-2008, one of the most unifying voices that we listened to was that of the Honorable Yusuf Haji, who kept reminding us that we are not an island of peace as we thought, and what it takes to get to where Somalia was at that time, Mr. Speaker. And so we'll remember him for the role he played in calming us down as members of parliament from across political divide. And I believe even as he played a role as a chair of Building Bridges Initiative, he clearly hoped that he's going to create a document and a report and a bill that will unite Kenyans and not divide them further. It is sad, though, that he's not there to speak his story, to say his story, but we pray that as we move forward, we'll look as a nation to ensuring that we have a process that is all-inclusive and one that unites the country and not what we are witnessing at the moment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I also say that we've lost 2 very great old elders of this House, one being Yusuf Haji, the other being the Honorable Nyachai, and just say that I truly do miss the parliament.
Jill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On my behalf and the behalf of my family and the people of Wajir, I want to join the House to pay my condolences message to the family of Honorable Yusuf Haji and the people of Garissa. Mr. Speaker, it's a big loss to us as Kenyans and also the people from the northern. Mr. Yusuf Haji, Senator, Mr. Speaker, was a peacemaker. He was very honest. He was the glue that brought many people together. Whenever there is a conflict in the region, he was out there to bring people together. For us, Mr. Speaker, it's a very big loss, but we pray because it's Allah, it's God, who has determined. Mr. Speaker, one thing that I've learned from his death is in life, you don't need to steal so that you can be somebody. He died a very humble senator. With all the powers he had, he was an administrator, he was a very firm person, But again, he was a very honest person, Mr. Speaker. So for us leaders, this death should teach us a lesson. We must be humble. We must respect our bosses. Humility is key, Mr. Speaker, and that is what it has taught us. The only gift, Mr. Speaker, today we can give to Senator Haji is to pass the BBI, so that as a country, we can move forward, have a united Kenya. That is all he wanted, Mr. Speaker. He never wanted to be rich. He wanted to have one Kenya. And I think that is the gift today we can give as people of Kenya in this house. And the second gift, Mr. Speaker, we can give today is to also consider Ijara and Habaswene to get an extra seat, because that is what he really wanted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And leaders, I know when Western Province lost Wamalwa, Mr. Speaker, they lost a leader. And today in Western, that is why you can see there is a lot of division. From Northeastern, this is a big challenge, because we do not have somebody who will fit his shoe. And I want to ask the leaders to pray for us, so that as Northeastern we can get a leader like him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Tiati.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to join my colleagues in mourning the passing of our departed brothers. Mheshimiwa Speaker, it's important for me to remember, when I was a young reporter for Nation at Nakuru, I served very well with Honorable Yusuf Haji when he was PC Rift Valley, and I learned a lot from him. He was a very firm and man who had an eye for detail in whatever you wanted to report as a journalist. My only regret, Mr. Speaker, is that Honorable Haji has had to go without a resolution on the matter of Kapedo, because he has gone with the memory of where really does Kapedo belong, because he served for a long time, and from the time the dispute arose, he was the provincial commissioner. So that's my only regret about Honorable Haji. But I'm proud, Mr. Speaker, sir, to note that Honorable Haji, for those who are keen to remind us about dynasties and hustler tags, I'm proud to know that Honorable Haji, even if he has gone to be with the Lord, he has left behind a brilliant young man who is leading the department, a very serious department in the country. May their souls rest in eternal peace.
Member for Nyaribari Chache. You are not able to see your mic. But I've given you. You know, when the moment I mention your name and then you start touching the buttons, then you know. Don't fabble with them like that. Honorable Tongi.
Karibu.
Not a video again. That mic seems to have a problem with your body.
Let me use this one, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity also to contribute and share my pain with the families who have lost their loved ones. Honorable Yusuf Haji, Honorable my colleague and friend Oro Oyoka, the Member of Parliament Bonchari. Honorable Speaker, we have lost very key people in this country in a very short succession. Particularly in Kisii, we have lost them in less than 2 months. We have lost a governor, we have lost a Member of Parliament, we have lost my father also, who is a prominent old man, even though he was a farmer, and the pain is so painful. And I can only imagine what the families are going through, Mr. Speaker. I think it's a moment that all of us need to reflect and find out what it would be that we have done, that we need to reconcile with God, so that we don't have to go through this pain, because it's quite painful, Honorable Speaker. losing leaders of this magnitude, people who had prepared, people, the founders of this country, people who had contributed immensely to the well-being of the country today. Honorable Yusuf Haji, as a young man when I'm growing up, I used to read him on papers. And he is a man that I looked up to and admired. I have had a few opportunities to share with him, and I truly believe that he was a great person. I remember once he told me that you young people, your biggest mistake is that you believe in papers, degrees. Leadership is never about the degrees or the papers that you have today. Leadership is about being humble, listening to the needs of the people, and doing what the people want. And the Honorable Yusuf Haji, just like Honorable Oro Yoka, believed in such and they practiced that, because leadership is about modeling the best behavior. Honorable Nyachae is also that type of a person. People who didn't go to the school the way we know it, the formal way, but...
Member for Suba North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me give my condolences and the condolence of the people of Suba North on the loss of Honorable Yusuf Haji, whom I served with in the 12th Parliament, I think. Was a very firm, strict person. I know people know him differently, but that's what I remember him with, very strict and very straightforward in everything he does. I also want to send my condolences on the loss of Honorable Oyoki and the people of Bonchari. And Honorable Nyachae, Mr. Speaker, didn't get a chance the last time when people were giving their condolences, and the people of Kisii in general for the loss. They've suffered a loss, great loss in the last few months. Mr. Speaker, I think one thing we need to know as a house, as a nation, that we are living in difficult times. I was in this matter time in Parliament, and even though we are not seeing it, it's very peculiar that we are burying so many members of Parliament and Senate, both present and past. We've never had a situation like this. It may be COVID, it may not be COVID, but Mr. Speaker, I think it's a call for us to remember that we are only here for a short time. And for the duration we are here, remember what people will remember you, or whether the only thing they remember you with is calling people tanga, calling people all those names that we call each other. But beyond that, Mr. Speaker, I think it'd be serious for the short time we have here. And I think it's so serious that Honorable 001, Mr. Speaker, has noted by even changing his uniform. Today is adorning a Kanu uniform. I think he's actually changing his demeanor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Member for Wajir South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to condole the departed soul of our senior citizen, a man who we always revere, Senator Haji, a man who has up to. He was my immediate cousin and my first cousin. Unfortunately, he was a man who took the country first and stood by what the country needs. He has been one of the icons that all the presidents that this country has seen have been related in terms of their work ethics. Senator Haji was above board in terms of ethics. He's a man who stood by his words, by his ground, and a man who has actually took leadership to the best that any leadership can be admired of. And truly speaking, we are sure that if every one of us felt that way, then it means that the calling of Allah to his heaven is obvious. And I wish to advise everybody and request everybody, that is, to sincerely forgive if he has crossed any line with any or anybody. And that is where my plea stands on. And we want to revere his soul, to say that he stands in our hearts and up above there in heaven. Thank you very much.
Member for North Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me join my colleagues in really sending messages of condolences to the families of Senator Haji and our colleague John Olo. May God rest their soul in eternal peace and also give their family the courage, the wisdom to overcome this immense loss. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Yusuf Haji is a great leader of this nation, a very humble, religious, and a man of very high level of integrity. He served his nation as a public servant, in administration, as a cabinet minister, as a member of parliament, as a senator, and in many, many capacities. In particular, I really want to honor him and remember him for the great work he did for us in Marsabit County. In 2013, we had a major crisis in that part of the country. He was a key mediator appointed by the president, the Honorable Caparo, the former Speaker of this House, and through their efforts, we were able to have some peace in that region for some times. Mr. Speaker, sir, he was a honest broker, very dignified in how we handled everything, and more than that, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a man who was God-fearing. May God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Commissioner Momanyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance also to join the rest of my colleagues in condoling with the families of the two great Kenyans that we lost yesterday. Indeed, as my colleagues have said, yesterday was a very unfortunate day for our country. As yesterday morning, we lost Senator Yusuf Haji, a man that we really respected, not only in the country, but also internationally. Mr. Speaker, as most of my colleagues have said, we know we have a program in the country now known as PBI, which was being headed by Mr. Yusuf Haji, Mr. Speaker, and we believe, as my colleagues have said, in honor of the late senator, we should, all of us as a team, pass the document so that we respect the senator. And as some of my colleagues have said, we single out the former leader of my children to lead in this process in honor of the senator who really mentored in politics, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Mheshimiwa Honorable Tong said, as the Kisii community, Mr. Speaker, we've gone through serious loss, Mr. Speaker, this in about 3 months, Mr. Speaker. We lost Honorable Yoka, Mr. Speaker. We lost him yesterday evening. He was a good man. We all knew him. He was a very humble Kenyan. And Mr. Speaker, we wish that their soul rest in peace, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Member from where?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to join my colleagues in condoling with the families of the two great men who left us yesterday, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, yesterday was really a sad moment for this country, and I think as Parliament, in the recent past, we have lost a number of our colleagues, and it's a high time, Honorable Speaker, that we probably organize some prayers so that this spirit does not come to us again, Mr. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji interacted with me quite a lot in my previous engagement, especially in looking for peace in this region. And I know many may not know that part of the reason why we have peace in this country is because of the contributions of the great men, Haji, Senator Haji included, Honorable Speaker. And I have heard from a number of our colleagues, Honorable Speaker, who seem to truly believe in him and believe in what he wanted this country to be. Simply a tribalist country where people enjoyed what we have been given by the Almighty God freely and without feeling discriminated. Honorable Speaker, it's for that reason that I also want to urge our colleagues to live to their words. If they believed in Senator Haji and what he believed in, to also believe in him in spirit and continue with the good work that he started. It's unfortunate that we could be talking about how we believe in him, and yet some of us are there fighting the efforts to unite this country, efforts to bring this country into a lovely country where we all love each other.
Member from Vita.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Kwanza kwa niaba yangu, niaba ya wanamvita, ningetaka kutoa pole kwa familia na jamii ya Oro Yuko ambaye alikuwa ni mbunge wa Bonchari, na marehemu Muhammad Yusuf Haji ambaye alikuwa ni senator wetu. Ningependa kutoa kibinafsi kwa wanaye Abdul na Nurdin. Bwana Spika, mengi yameweza kuzungumzwa katika jumba hili, lakini kuna mafunzo ambayo kwamba vifo hivi vinafaa kutufunza sisi. Kwanza, hamna ambaye ana mkataba na Mwenyezi Mungu ya lini ataenda mbele ya haki. Haya mambo ya watu kujigamba ya kuwa mwaka 2022 ikiwa kuna lolote mwanasiasa nafaa kujifunza na vifo hivi, ni kwa yoyote anaweza kwenda mbele ya haki wakati wowote, Bwana Spika. Pili, mkumbuko ya kuwa leo tunazungumza wenzetu walioenda mbele ya haki. Kesho mimi na mmoja hapa atakayokuwa hapa na wengine wote watakaokuwa hapa wataenda mbele ya haki. Swali ni tutakumbukwa na yapi ambayo tuliweza kuyatendea kwa watu wetu. Tusiwe ni wenye kujigamba, lakini tujue ya kuwa binadamu akienda mbele ya haki hukumbukwa kwa yale ambayo kwamba aliweza kuyafanya. Na mwishowe, Bwana Spika, mauti kidini ya Uislamu hamna ya kuwa ni hadhi, hamna ambaye kwamba anasema ya kuwa mwenye fedha zaidi ama mwenye kuwa anajulikana zaidi. Unafariki alfajiri, ikifika adhuhuri ama alasiri